Hey there, in today's video, I am showing you another way to be creative in what I think is kind of a practical way, and use collage papers and random papers that you have, especially the little tiny bits and pieces. It's by making, I don't know, some people call it a pocket journal. I think some people even call it a zine. Some people call it an accordion journal. Anyway, it ends up being, you take one piece of paper and you fold it and cut it, and it ends up being a small little, journal. And what I like about it is probably two things. One, I get to use the little pieces of collage paper that honestly are too small for most things. I don't work that small for the most part. I like to work, 10 by 12 or larger in even my art journals. I guess some of my vintage book art journals are smaller than that, but for the most part, it's fun to use up the little bits and pieces. And I have had more fun doing these little pocket journals than what I actually thought I would have, because I'm like, oh, it's so tiny, but it's perfect because it's like I have all these little bits and pieces. So the other thing is, what I like about it is I have turned it into also a birthday card, or actually any kind of card, because on each page you have already made marks, so you could add collage, you could add words, you could add different sentiments that are reflecting the person that you're sending it to or giving it to, and it could be attached to a gift, or I don't know. I just feel like there's so many ways that this little journal could be used. And like I mentioned, you don't need to rush out and buy anything. It takes basically, I'm showing you on random paper on a grocery bag, again, my favorite thing, my favorite craft paper, and then using any of your collage pieces that you have. And if you don't have any small ones, you can cut them down, or you could whatever, but and then other little bits and pieces that I have around. None of this do you have to ever go out and buy anything. And I think, again, that's a really fun way. A fun way to create is just like, okay, what do I have around me? What can I cut and make into this little booklet that will be full of surprises, and it's something I can keep for myself, or I can give away and bless someone else with. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that there are tons of people out there that make these. So I'm trying to, I always want to give credit if I've seen a video of someone making something or doing something, and then I say, hey, that's a great idea, I want to try that as well, because I really feel like we got to spread the love. It's like, okay, I got that idea from them, and they probably got it from somebody else, and on it goes. But I was really racking my head. It's like, okay, where did I first see this? And possibly it was by Amy Bishop, and I will link her below. I know she did that. There's a number of people that I've watched, I'm pretty sure, that have made these little pocket journals, or I think they call them zines, or that when you work both sides, I think it's a whole different thing. And it's not a concertina, which is a whole nother thing. But anyway, I definitely want to give credit to anyone when I can remember, and I want to be intentional about that. So anyway, in this one, I'm not exactly sure where I first saw the idea, but I know it's pretty common, and I'm pretty sure like grade schools use it in their art classes. So I think we're safe. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Before we get started, I thought I would show you a couple of these little pocket journals, or whatever you want to call them, before I actually show you how to do it. It's super simple. Most of us have actually done this before, probably in grade school or at some other point in our lives. But it is, and I actually don't remember where I saw the idea recently or in the last year or so. But anyway, so what I've found is, although I do not tend to work small, these are really fun. And again, this one is just, I didn't even really cut it correctly, but it's fun to use up the teeny tiny little bits and pieces of your collage. And so for me, that is the point of these little books. And then if I can turn them into a birthday card or something else, then that is even all the more fun. So this one I did primarily in black and white. I just want to give you I used little bits and pieces. It had some white in it on the craft. And then I just found little pieces of things and made little pages from the different collage mediums, or not mediums, collage papers I had. So to me, a lot of times I end up with these teeny tiny little pieces, and I don't know really what to do with them because they're too small for a regular collage or something that I'm working on, because I rarely would work this small. So that I basically made this out of a grocery bag. Then I took a tea bag and you made it like a little spine. And then I just added this little piece down the side, glued it on for an embellishment, which is the edge of some burlap. Okay, so then the other one, this, I thought I just wrapped a little ribbon around it because it's not really decorated. The paper is tea dyed, and then I just hand tore it, even though it's a little bit large. And I did this one a little bit different, and I will show you. I actually glued the back page on here. In this one, there's no, I didn't put an extra piece around the outside. The outside is just the outside. And this one, I glued a piece of paper around the outside to make kind of like a little book cover. So this one I did in all different, I did it on a grocery bag again, but I did it with different colors and some of the different scraps that I had left over. And so, yeah, it was really fun just to find these little teeny tiny little bits that I felt like worked. This one actually started getting really a little bit too busy. I think I finally calmed it down. It's still a little bit busy for me, but I'm using so many things. And then I just kept gluing paper on top until I got a look that I wanted. So anyway, and then this last page is glued on here. So there's a couple different ways you can do these. One is not to have this little book cover, obviously. And then the other is just, I mean, you could have the book cover or you could just do them plain. I'm sure there's 1,000 YouTube videos out there on how to make these and different ideas around them. But I'm just showing you another way to use your collage papers, your teeny tiny little pieces, and which I think is super fun. And you can create, honestly, the one I did for I did one for a birthday, but I'm in the future, I'm like, oh, this would be so fun to have little words for your person you're giving this to, this little card to, or a little encouragement book or something like that. So it could have, cut out words. There's just so many ideas. I don't need to belabor the point, but let's get started with the video, and I'll show you how quickly and easily you can create one of these for yourself. Like I mentioned, I typically would work on a grocery bag, a craft colored grocery bag, or craft colored paper, because I just like the look of it, and that is kind of more what I'm going for. But I also have collage paper that is that's fairly large, that is obviously not craft, which is, I know, kind of shocking. So I thought I would use this. I think I can barely get it into the view of the camera. So you can kind of get it. And I'm working a little bit larger because I feel like it's a little easier to see how it works when you work a little bit larger. So the first thing you do, and I actually have folded it, so I'm just going to turn it either direction, it doesn't really matter, and you fold it in half. And I'm going to grab my bone folder, but you don't need to have a bone folder, which is just this little thing here. You can use your finger, a credit card, whatever else, whatever. I mean, again, play around with it, practice with a piece of printer paper or something, just till you get the gist of it, and then you can decide what you want to do moving forward. Okay, so you have your fold. Now fold each edge into that fold. And again, I am not super accurate. I guess that's probably fairly obvious. So we're going to do both sides. Put it, right to the middle there. It's that middle line. Okay. Okay. So now we should have 3 lines, 4 sections. Does that make sense? 3 folds, I mean. So now we're going to fold it. Okay, so we folded it this way. Now turn it whichever direction you've already folded it. Turn it the other way and fold it the other way. So depending on the size of your paper, it could be lengthwise, but you can use any size paper, honestly. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make these folds go in exactly like we did in the other direction. Okay, I'll do the other side. Okay, so So now we have a whole bunch of little squares on here. Hopefully that's the case. We have the fold this way, we have the fold the other way, all those folds, and I'm hoping you can see some of them. So now you can grab a pencil. You do not have to have a pencil if you pay attention to what you're doing, but I'm going to use a pencil just for the sake of example. So in fact, maybe I should get something darker like a pen. Let's get a pen so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to go count up 3 from the far right hand, which might be your left hand as you're looking at this, and I'm going to draw a little dot right there. And then on the far, okay, so that's the first fold. There's a middle fold, and then there's the other fold. I'm going to do the same thing, count up 3 folds there. So I have 2 dots. For those dots, the only point of them, and you wouldn't need to put a dot if you thought you could do it without a dot, is you're going to cut straight up that fold to that dot. Okay, on both of those. That was not very straight cutting, but that's okay. Now we're going to turn the whole thing around. There should be a middle fold, and we're going to count up 3 and put a dot right on the fold of the third line up. And then we're going to cut that one as well. Okay. So now it should look something like this, whatever piece of paper you're using. So I'm going to turn it and I'm going to start folding. So I'm going to fold, fold, fold. It should just kind of naturally fold. I don't know, hopefully it will naturally fold. And just kind of keep folding, fold, 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 back and forth. Okay, then you have your little book. Okay, so open your pages. As you can see, it's pretty cool when you start with, like, this book could already be done just by, and you saw that paper, it looked kind of crazy, but that's, to me, it's almost done, and I could just put some fabric around it and call it a good done little book. Now I'm going to show you the different thing that I do that most people don't do. Most people leave it like that, and I get it, because it makes it, you can do all these different things. Well, I want mine to close, and like I've showed you in this one, maybe I want to have a little binding on it, which is just a glue tea bag. So I do not leave all the pages open. I glue those pages together. So I would leave the first page, open it, and you see how okay, so hopefully this is making sense. I don't glue the pages that I'm going to flip. I glue underneath here. I glue this page to this page. So I don't have the lingo. I feel like I'm this and that and the other thing. So sometimes it's trial and error, and there may be people who can speak to it, who have the right verbiage for that. Okay, so as I glued that together, now when I open this little other piece is together. So that is good, in my opinion. So I don't want that flap, so I am going to glue these two together. I'm just using a glue stick. Obviously, you could probably use anything. You could probably use double-sided tape. That might be real easy. I'm a big fan of double-sided tape, okay? And then the next page is fine. The next page, oh, look at that. It's open right there in the back, so I don't want that. Now, if you want to be able to work on the front and back and not do that crazy little binding thing that I'm doing on mine, then you wouldn't do this. You just leave it the way it is. And you could actually, you then on your collage paper, paint on both sides. Okay, so here, this one also, let's glue that together. Okay, turn it, and then that one needs glued. Okay, my glue is like getting really not good, but that's okay. All right, now I'm going to turn the page. There we go. There's another place that needs to be glued. Okay, my glue is probably old, but it's still working. Okay, let's turn this page. It looks like we have one more to glue, which is this one right here. So, all right. So now when you open the book, it doesn't open the other pages. It's not opening. None of the other stuff is opening, if that makes sense. The backs are all, it's all secure. So and that's what I like. I like working that way. And then from there, you can decide what you want to use. If you want to use if you want to bind it like this, you can use fabric. This is, you know, obviously burlap, whatever, and just glue that on. You can use paper or tea bags like I used. Since the book is kind of blue on the inside, let's see if I tear these apart real quick and just show you what I did. I pretty much just glued it on like that and then cut the bottom edge. So there's that. Or you could use one of those tapes like like this fabric tape and tape the edge, or not at all. And what you could do instead, you could grab some fabric and create, and now I probably didn't get a piece big enough, which I didn't, but that's okay. You kind of get the gist of it. So you could create a little booklet, a little cover. And like I did on this one, I just glued well, let me grab it here real quick. Oh, this was paper actually. I just glued the last page, so the other page is all open, and this front page isn't open. I mean, isn't glued. So then it can be as thick or as chunky as you want it to be. I have. So this is a paper towel, if you can believe it. Isn't that cool? You could this would be a really fun way to look at that. That's not that is so cool, and that would work because you kind of do need something that's fairly soft. And then what I did with that other one, in order to give it that rough edge, is I just kind of tore it like this. So then it had that torn edge on the top. So, so you would just glue, let's just do it because I like this. We'll just glue this last page in. Although probably with the blue, I probably wouldn't have done this color, but that's okay. And then I'm lining it up at the bottom and letting the top kind of go over. So there you go. I mean, that is as fast as easy as you can manage. And then I could take something to embellish it. I could take something like this, which that looks pretty cool. I could even, wow, if you were really fancy, you could probably adhere that and then have a little button or something. Wouldn't that be cute? Anyway, there's all kinds of fun things you could do. Once you get started, it's hard to stop. So I think what I'll do is, just for the sake of showing you one more, I'm gonna put it in a fast forward. I've kind of showed you the steps for making the book and what you could do to embellish it afterwards, but I'm gonna do one more just cutting it. And this is super fun, just so you can watch one more time in fast forward and see where it goes. I thought I'd pop back on here because I completely changed my thought of what I was doing. I pulled off, this is the little blue one. I pulled off the paper towel that had been tea dyed because it just didn't feel like it went with this little book, this blue. And then I found this blue fabric, which I thought was really cute. And so I glued it to the last page And then I found this little piece of leather, and I thought that just made a cute little closure for it. So whatever I end up doing with that, I thought that was really cute. And then the one that I did in Fast Forward, I will say this was a little more difficult, probably not one I should have shown, because some of the paper was already, what do I want to say, wrinkled. So it was a little more difficult to do than typical, but it turned out fine. And so I just decided to move the paper towel over to this one, and then I glued on this little piece of leftover twine that I had, which I thought was really fun. So now I have these cute little books. Let me bring them all back. And now obviously this one is full of color and not my typical, when you see them all together, you're like, okay, I see this, but it's fun to kind of branch out sometimes and do something different. And I feel like this would be a really fun little gift for someone if I went through and embellished the pages and maybe added some text and some sentiments and things like that. So anyway, as you can see, there's so many different ideas and thoughts or ideas around making these little mini pocket journals or accordion journals or whatever you want to call them. Obviously, I kind of put my own twist on things, adding in some other embellishments and also gluing the pages together so that it's you can't access, or you don't end up using the back page. For me, that's fine. It's not really a concertina, which is another form of accordion type journal. It's just one that then I can use just the one page, not necessarily the back. But I like having this kind of closure to it. So much for watching, and I will see you next time.